And welcome back to Wake Up America Weekend. I'm Alison Maloni. Time now for the weekend business. The October inflation report released earlier this week forecasting a pricey holiday season. The cost of driving to Thanksgiving gatherings and putting a meal on the table way up thanks to soaring inflation rates. For more on this, let's bring in our money man, starting with America's accounting professor of Montclair State University, Dan Gelcher. Dan, thanks for joining us this morning. I know you're in a little secret location to see a football game today.
Yes, I am. I am actually in State College, Pennsylvania for Michigan versus Penn State.
Awesome.
Should be a great game.
That's great. I know you love them. All right, I want to talk about the Consumer Price Index. It's up 6.2%. It's the biggest jump in 30 years. Do October's scary statistics further stress the need for change, you think?
Yeah, it really does. Look, this inflationary situation, although the genesis was certainly COVID-19, the reaction, both in the United States and around the world, is what's causing the inflation. Why? It's about the policies. When you are paying people to stay home and there's an enormous amount of demand and the supply chain can't keep up. Why? Because of a shortage of labor. Well, you are headed for inflation. And I don't see how this ends anytime soon, unless, of course, there's going to be a turnaround in policy.
Yeah, we'll see if that happens. I want to bring in business and markets analyst and Newsmax contributor, Seth Denson. Good morning, Seth. All right, so these numbers, they're going to directly impact the upcoming holidays, starting with Thanksgiving. So the cost of turkey, it's up 27%, pumpkin pie, 20%, carrots, 47%, and potatoes, 13%. It's going to cost less to eat out this Thanksgiving. How do you think families get it done?
Well, Allison, I think the key point is our families even going to be able to get together with the fuel prices where they are unless you live close enough to walk. And that's the additional challenge. Listen, I don't know how families are going to get it done outside of just they're going to have to spend more, which means it could impact the Christmas shopping era. But there was a headline missed on this inflation report this week. And because we were all talking about 6.2%. That's almost a full point increase from the previous month. If you annualize that, now we're talking about 10.8% over the course of the year. If we don't get this under control, Thanksgiving is going to be the least of our worries. It's the entire 2022 year.
Yeah, no, that's not good news to hear. Dan, leading the October surge was the cost of gas, right? As Seth just mentioned, soaring 6.7% on the month. Thanksgiving, we were saying it, like people drive all over the place, so forget the meal. How are people even going to afford to go if they're traveling? Because plane tickets are outrageous, especially traveling during this time, so a lot of people decide we'll drive. Anything people can do to combat these costs? I mean, really, how can we avoid it?
It's really, really difficult, Allie, because when you're talking about rising fuel costs, it impacts everything. It's not just people traveling, it's also goods, because goods have to move around the country. So we are really headed in a bad direction. And of course, this relates to policy. We had been energy independent during the Trump administration. The Biden administration has done a complete 180 on this issue. We are not moving oil the way we used to and refining as we had, and we are relying on OPEC. They are not our friends in order for us to get fuel. Bad combination, and it's not going to end, once again, until we change policy.
Yeah, well, and then look, Biden administration is looking to potentially get rid of that other pipeline, so we have to rely on OPEC for even more. Seth, bad news for anyone looking, for an alternative. Turkey this holiday, I mean, forget just Thanksgiving, but the cost of ribeye roast is through the roof. It's up 95%, bacon jumping 28%, even ground chuck jumping 20%. Look, these aren't just holiday meals. This is regular food items that people put on their table on a day-to-day basis. This is affecting every American, and their grocery bills keep going up.
That's right, and that's why America's account, I've heard Dan say a number of times, this is a hidden tax, because that's effectively what's happening right now. So to say this isn't going to impact everybody, and I'll tell you who it impacts the most, the working class, right? Because, listen, these folks live in paycheck to paycheck. Not only are they having impact on fuel prices, but also it's impacting the elderly who have a fixed income component. I don't know if we're going to have ramen noodles this year for holiday season, but certainly it's what we're going to be eating in between, because that may be the only thing we can afford. And unfortunately, we hear nothing out of Washington, specifically the White House, to say, here's how we're going to handle it and here's how we're going to solve it. Wages are not keeping up with this inflation. It's going to impact everybody.
Yeah, Dan, produce prices, they tied an all-time high, surging 8.6% thanks to largely to unthinkable high gas prices, vehicle prices. So you've got meat, now you have fruits and vegetables. Do you think that these costs are going to go down, or do you think we're going to see them go up?
Well, the fruits and vegetables, of course, don't bother me quite as much, but the meat, yes.
Because you don't eat fruits and vegetables? That's
not as much
you.
as I should.
Some insight there.
Not as much as I should. But look, again, I don't see how this is going to change anytime soon, and that's really the concern about where we're going. I am afraid, which becomes worst case scenario, that we are not getting out ahead of this, and what we are left with is having to raise interest rates in order to combat inflation. And when we get to that point, Allie, we are really going to see a lot of pain, because interest rates going up, everybody feels that just as much or more as inflation.
Yeah, Seth, but they said they probably aren't going to raise those interest rates, right?
Well, they say that, but listen, I don't know what I'm more concerned about, the fact that the inflation is doing what it's doing, or the fact that the smartest people that are supposed to be in the room keep saying, oh, this was going to be transitory, we're not going to have to raise interest rates. They're changing their tune every 2 seconds, and that's really concerning for those that are supposed to be in control and understand this. So, listen, I estimate that they're going to have to raise interest rates by the second quarter of 2022. If these inflation rates stay the same, it's going to be the only way to get this under control.
Yeah, no, we'll see what happens. All right, well, Seth Denson, Dan Geltry, we're going to see you in the next hour. Dan, we'll see if you think Penn State can make it 2 straight after losing 3-game losing. I don't know.
That hurts, Allie.
Well, this actually came from Lauren. I'm going to blame Lauren for that, because he knows his football. But we'll see. We'll see. We'll talk about it in the next hour. Plenty more still to come on Wake Up America. As we head to the break, don't forget to download the Newsmax app. Do what millions of others have done. Take us with you everywhere you go. You're watching Wake Up America only on Newsmax.